Today we read from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 8, verses 22 to 30. There are several stories of Jesus healing the blind in the Gospels. All of them are about much more than making eyes function. They're all, to one degree or another, about understanding, inner seeing, as it were, perception. "Oh, I see," we exclaim as the penny drops. We use this metaphor all the time. This healing of the blind man parallels what happens to the disciples next. They too are blind to an extent, and their vision needs improvement. How much have they grasped about Jesus so far? What have they understood about him? Do they see better than the crowds? The time has come, Jesus knows, to challenge them on this, and it's a turning point in the gospel. The blind man receives his healing in 2 stages, a unique feature of this particular narrative. After Jesus' first treatment, he can see something, but it's obviously very confused. Then, following a second healing act, his vision clears and he can see properly. Similarly, the disciples are first asked about other people's opinions of Jesus, and they relate a range of reactions and theories about him, all a bit confused. But then the question comes home, becomes personal. What about you? What do you think about me? Who am I? And Peter voices for them all their greatest hope at that time. "You are the Messiah," he says. It's a clearer vision of Jesus' identity. It's not a declaration of divinity, not yet, but it's still a dangerous statement to make, politically dangerous. Hence, Jesus' injunction to keep quiet about it, to tell no one. They were to spread the gospel of God's love, yes, but to keep quiet about this belief that Jesus was the promised Saviour sent from God. That would be widely misunderstood, and it would bring about the wrath of the authorities far too soon. Hence, all this takes place away from the crowds, in private, just like the healing of the blind man, actually, who's also told not to go into the village, i.e., not to go and brag about what's happened to him. After this event, which we call Peter's confession, the mood of the gospel changes. Jesus starts to teach them about his idea of being the Messiah, his vision of what it means for him to fulfill his vocation for God, and it's rather different to theirs. Hence he has to repeat it over and over. The Son of Man, will be arrested, executed, killed, and then raised after 3 days. This must have been very confusing for Peter and the others. In fact, the first time, Peter protests vehemently. "That can't happen to you. That's not right. That's outrageous." And Jesus had to stop him quite sharply. Just when the disciples thought they had got it sussed, they find that there is still a long way to go, a great mystery to grasp. Their vision is not so clear after all. And until they were convinced of the resurrection, I don't think their vision would have been all that clear all along. Eventually, of course, they become convinced that Jesus was the Son of God as well as the Messiah, and that was a whole new insight, a whole new form of vision to have. I think this is always true of the spiritual life, and I dare say you're aware of this. Can you remember times in the past when you thought you had everything sorted out in your mind about faith, and then perhaps something happens and you realise you're only just beginning after all? You have to adjust your ideas, think again. It might feel like 1 step forward and 2 steps back. But this is how we learn, and we are learners, all of us, disciples, that is. And we have imperfect vision, and understanding. We shall not arrive at a perfect grasp of spiritual mysteries until we see God face to face. My guess is that there will be some surprises for us, even at that stage. Good ones, I trust.